So I'm Linda Russo, and I live in the northwest of Washington, in the United States, close to the Idaho border. It's a farming region. We grow a lot of wheat for Japan. So, and I guess I'm introducing my landscape a little bit because it's important to my poetry, the places where I write from. And I want to thank John for inviting me and organizing this, and all of you for coming, and Maki for being a wonderful hostess while I'm here in Kyoto. Thank you. So I'm going to read first from I've got a couple of books coming out. I'll read from the first one. It's called The Enhanced Immediacy of the Everyday. And just want to say two things about it's called American Poem in Parts. It's actually a 9-page poem, but I'm only going to read a few of the parts. And a museum in Portland appears in this poem. So the Museum of Contemporary Craft in Portland. There's a pink tea set pierced with a Ming Dynasty pattern that was at the museum. And there's some cicadas in the poem. And then I did a little research before I read today, and I understand that in Japan, cicada is associated with summer, a symbol of reincarnation. I thought that was really interesting. It's interesting when symbols find you in your poems and you didn't know. And it appears in the tale of Genji. He used it as a metaphor to describe his lover delicately shedding a scarf. And it appears in haiku. American Poem in Parts. Are you sure you want to number those pages? Or smell the cookies not yet burning? Snow changes everything. Shut eye. The name of my people means people. Men working, women. What we are grateful for. The enhanced immediacy of the everyday. A pink tea set pierced with a Ming Dynasty pattern. A means of observing life. The topology of every day. It's a gift if you work it. You map it, or what is a body for. Daffodils exploding brightly in a sea of green. I am busy amassing wealth, managing depth, bothered by money and income suck in the vivid morning air, registering the heat, wavering off the red car parked neatly on the street. In my house, in my country, everything is rabbits and trees. How can I possibly convey the feeling of owning these things? I am an excellent cook. I am the bright riches now. A salty sweetness awash in my mouth. I am speechless, bursting with approval. Share this with me and your dividend. One day we will all relax in the pink we have planned for and trusted. Odd how the air is pocked with grievances while buds push forth from woody thrones. The little motions creating the cicada effect. I can't help but feel it, can you? Sun, this stretch of grass at this hour, or where you are, wherever touching the ground in some way, planted somewhere, that backhoe that stalled but didn't, 5 yellow jackets revisiting the bench, my own illusion of readiness. The slender pear tree, somewhat still or slightly astir in the breeze. Sun tea, flip-flops. It can't be helped. We can't help it, nor would we want to. What do we want? A cheering small crowd and the metal bat's occasional ting. Look at the tomato plants we planted, the wire fence, your words and works, the weedy weeks, dirt worked into knees. Housekeeping, logic of linked blue, a gift of green plates and shine, stacked clean and endlessly again. Your little paws curled neath your cheek. How many and how long? What sits on the solid table is solid. I solidly sit. moving into the quiet night after moving about industriously, forgetting a book, to read a blank book. An eve clear and bare is mine, is my story to tell. The songs to sing come happily about the living, us among them. Gray book or the green trees, their sullen leaves mention their sudden, sodden leaves, the trees, their leaves leave me. A word, another word leaves, retinal impression, see the wind, these impressive September mayflies, and green, green, another green, a yellow, many still pink, what leaves? So that's just a little bit of the first section of that book. And then it goes on and does other things. I've written, this is my second book from Chax Press, and I managed to write poems in books in 3 sections. So that's what happened with that book too. And I'll read a little bit from a different book. I have another book coming out with Shearsman Books is in the UK. And this book I wrote entirely in Pullman, Washington, where I live in eastern Washington. I've been there 6 years now. It seems to be that's how long it takes to get to know a place, right? And write a book about it. So I'm just going to read a little bit. This book is a lot different because I didn't want to do the section thing. So, but I tend to write very long poems. I tend not to write discrete poems. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. But so in this book, in this section of this book, I was undertaking what I call an imaginative or investigative geography as a way to explore place. And this poem, I'm not going to read the whole this whole long poem, but it thinks about different kinds of geography, and it takes geography literally, like this idea of writing the earth. And you'll see, well, I'll read there's an epigraph from Thoreau. So I'll read that, and that'll give you a sense of what I mean by, geography. It's such an interesting idea, but so this is Henry David Thoreau. Epigraph, I took just a little bit from something. They never took to the way of writing. Look at their fields and imagine what they might write if they ever should put pen to paper. Or what have they not written on the face of the earth already, clearing and burning and scratching and harrowing and plowing and subsoiling, in and out and over again and again, erasing what they had already written for want of parchment. So I'll read just a few sections from this poem. It's called Always Underfoot. And that title comes from the other epigraph by the American writer of the Southwest, Mary Austin. I'll just read the epigraph. There is no sort of experience that works so constantly and subtly upon man as his regional environment. It orders and determines all the direct, practical ways of his getting up and flying down, of staying in and going out, of housing and clothing and food getting. It arranges by its progressions of seed times and harvest. It is the thing always before his eye, always at his ear, always underfoot. Part 1, imaginative geographical evidence. Take a walk. Write a poem piecing together geographical evidence. Take another walk. Keep writing a poem. Write imaginative memory. Send out signals and write the shapes that return. This is your walk. Keep writing the poem, piecing together geographical evidence and imaginative memory. This is your walk in the mapped emissions. A rough, grassy stretch, a footpath etched deeply, diagonally transecting the rough grass unruffled, the curves of a railroad track, of flowing roads, of paths. Pullman River Walk. F.J. Koppel's Milky Way Dairy. Footpaths cut through trees, fields, footpaths down to the riverbank, crossing the river, the unidentified paths along the water where lives are lived, where all feet, furthermore, write collaborative geographies. With the satellite image in your head, the almost perfectly regular white dashes of Campus Vista Mobile Home Park, its relatively fat bands of trees, houses on the ridge above, the etched garden plot grid of Koppel Community Garden below, white squares of picnic shelter, shed, and west of the chevron sunset mark the field like a wing broken off, hanging from a paved spine, where a nearly non-visible winding waterway cleaves wing and park, wing and garden, where the footbridge bridges. Beneath your feet is the landscape rewritten, physical underfoot realities in scars. Part 2. Geography, the graft of geo. Settlement, shrinking the margins. We revise the already being written, a rolling hillside, a spot of prairie, a patch of woods. We write ourselves, imagining in a Euclidean blank a stable canvas, until houses slide down hillsides, houses that always inch closer to some sea. Inland, sinkholes open and swallow people, houses, cows. The little fictions, geologic instability transects. A geographic sense of time is vast, sees disasters for features, a landscape full of mistakes. Getting along or healing, our feet hammering the paved footpath. Physical underfoot realities, sequent occupants, systems and settlements revealing a history of follies and collapses. The wind blows across the landscape's features. Human bodies meet little friction, guided across a stretch of parking lot, through wide aisles, through profit, exchange, and loss. At the edge of the asphalt, a plastic bag billows up, snagged in tall bunch grass, yellowed in the sun. Map on Map River. This is the 4th section. I'll read a little bit of it. Snows melt. Water runs broad on the shallow banks. Then, after some spring, the water level descends. Someone puts out the plank footbridge, removed late fall. Its omission from the street map marks it as natural. The water, wild noisiness of it marks it as natural. The inconsistency, the pleasures, swinging little sparrow chirps scattered along, far away and near, glint of sun, on a single glint of moving windshield, too far to hear. Long, weather-washed grasses hang off low-hanging branches, dipping in the rumpled surface of swift rolling water. Emitting the name of the river from the map. Cartography is where we card to. So I think of that poem as exploring some of the tensions. I think it's a very American landscape poem, the tensions between what space is, what space is for. I live in a land of prairies that's been turned into farming land, but it's also, it's real estate, so it's sold off and, they build a Walmart. So, and that abstraction of space I find very sad. And so when I go to the Japanese garden, I'm always kind of looking at how they space is. I was like, wow, these Japanese, they really know how to think about space, and they really know how to, in the way they arrange the landscape, to show that space is being thought about in a very particular way. So that was really, it's been really touching part of my visit, because so much land in America is just profit. It's just waiting for profit, and that's really sad. So this little book, I'm just going to talk about it. I'm not going to read from it. But Stephanie Anderson, who some of you, I think, might know because she was visiting. I met,
Oh, John knows.
yeah, Gregory took me to Cece's cake shop yesterday. And
It was good.
yeah, it was really good. And the woman who's running it now.
Yeah, that's she's Zumi, or Sid Corman's wife's sister, and Stephanie, I guess, has been in touch with her and
Yeah.
visiting and so on.
So Stephanie's a young American poet who goes to the University of Chicago, and she chose my book to publish. It's this little chapbook. And it's called Picturing Everything Closer Visible. And I'll just tell you about the poems. A couple years ago, I had a writing residency in my backyard, and I would just go out there every day. And I was reading Emily Dickinson, and I was writing. And so these are, I call these are my backyard poems. And I'm not going to read them. I'll just show you what they look like. I was when I was talking to Maggie last weekend, I thought, oh, I should write some haiku. You know, I tried. I wanted to, but I couldn't, or they weren't very good. But I'm capable of shorter things, haiku-like poems. So thank you all for listening, and I'm excited to hear Gregory, Maggie.